Hello, and welcome to the Solutions Manual podcast, where we take life's greatest challenges and turn them into simple, practical solutions that you can actually use. I'm Sarah, and I'm fascinated by nutrition, well-being, and human performance.
And I'm Maciek, a physician and medical leader passionate about helping people unlock their potential. What unites us is a deep fascination with how the human brain works and how to train it.
Together, we will show you how you can rewrite your life story by retraining your brain.
Join us as we explore the intersection of science, the brain, leadership, and personal growth. Let's get started. If we reach that point with genetic engineering, should we bring the dinosaurs back?
Oh my goodness, that's I think I'd answer with another question with it, for what purpose? So I mean, this has been something that's driven me through my career, is about, I'm very fortunate to work with lots of different technologies. So whether it's medicines, whether it's digital, AI, devices, except loads of amazing science and technology. But my kind of core theme throughout the various roles I've done and things that I do now is, how do you ensure the technology is doing something meaningful for society rather than just for the sake of technology? And the reason why I'm passionate about that is because if you don't mindfully think about what you're doing with technology, there will be unintended consequences. And
Absolutely.
as we've seen, the unintended consequences tend to end up with affecting people who are already underserved in society anyway.
Exactly.
So I'm not quite sure how dinosaurs fits into that, except for the question I would ask is, if we're doing it, why would we do it? And who's thinking through the unintended consequences?
It's exactly what the question is about. But Sheuli, I think would be great way to start would be, well, to let you introduce yourself to the people who will be listening to us.
So I'm Sheuli Porkess. I'm someone who's been working in life sciences for over 20 years, and I'm someone who likes doing new and different things, which means that I've been very fortunate to do lots of different things through my career to date, with lots of different organisations in lots of different places.
Okay, it's very modest, but yes.
How did you get to where you are? What is it to you to be a leader where you are right now?
Great question, and I think I can describe it in two ways. One is the very neat and tidy way of, I did this step, this step, this step, this step, and then the other is the realistic, actually bits of life happened, things happened that I wasn't expecting.
Yes.
The neat version is, I went to medical school, I became a doctor, I moved into pharmaceutical medicine, and then I have worked in various leadership roles. The more realistic version is actually, I really enjoyed sciences at school. Reflecting back now, I think what I was particularly interested at the time was actually ecology and the environment. But at that point, that wasn't particularly a thing. And, medicine was another career path, both of which were, I guess, very mission driven about, either saving the planet or saving people. So I decided to go to medical school. I decided to take a year out before medical school, essentially to get some cash to help me through medical school, and ended up in a company called ICI working in their lab. It was interesting for a number of reasons. It was my first sort of major work in a corporation. I got to meet doctors working in it, which then later on I would realise were pharmaceutical physicians, which would then be the specialty that I went into. So I was really lucky that I got exposed to it early on. It was the year that ICI split into two companies, so ICI and Zeneca. So it was my first experience of big organizational change and the impact that had on people. And the other significant thing about it was where I met my husband. So I've known him for a very long time. So I then went to medical school, did the junior doctor, junior house officer and senior house officers, as it was in those days, and did rotations, and found myself doing a care of the elderly rotation, which was amazing. Worked with some absolutely brilliant people. My consultant during those years was fabulous. He was a fabulous boss, a fabulous colleague, and absolutely someone who I would want any relative or friend to be treated by. But I saw him getting frustrated time and time again about, I need to do something about the system. It's the system. And I found myself thinking, actually, with pharmaceutical medicine, you're not constrained to thinking about the patient in front of you, or you can actually think about big populations and make a difference more at that sort of population health and system level. So then I applied for pharmaceutical medicine jobs. First job was a medical advisor with Boehringer. And I spent many fabulous years with Boehringer in the UK, in the Netherlands, where I had my daughter, in Sweden, and then in a global role in Germany. Then we came back to the UK, would have been 10 years ago now, actually. I moved to Almirall as the medical director for Northern Europe. And then it was at that point that I really got involved with the ABPI and became chair of the medical expert network. And then it was again another sort of moment where my eyes were opened and say, oh, I really enjoy this policy level, this kind of, how do you set a policy for an industry approach or a health approach, or at that level. There was also a lot of work with international colleagues, with European colleagues, and international through that. And that I was also in ABPI as the director of research, medicine and innovation through Brexit and through the early first part of the pandemic. From that, I then went to be an independent consultant. I then went in to be a CMO for life sciences in a data company, setting up that part of the business. And then more recently, I'm an independent consultant again, so doing a variety of interesting things. Alongside all of that, this notion of paying forward has been important for me in two ways. One is for people within pharmaceutical medicine. So I was an examiner for the Faculty of Pharmaceutical Medicine, so helping people with their professional development. I was doing that for many years, and then I've taken on more senior roles within the faculty over time, and I'm fortunate to be president for we're now 8 months now, so fairly early, and chair of the board of trustees for the faculty. The other thing, which so I'm particularly delighted to be on this podcast, that I'm really keen for, is about supporting other women in the workplace and really helping women, in their journey, whatever that looks like.
I just would like to clarify a few things for our listeners. ABPI, Association of the British Pharmaceutical Industry. So essentially every pharmaceutical company in the UK is a member of. So that's just might be an acronym that is not familiar to everyone. And I think that you have also mentioned being elected the president of the faculty. I think I would just reinforce the fact that this is an elected position where all the specialists in pharmaceutical medicine and members of the faculty are voting of who the next person leading them will be. Just to emphasize the kind of a recognition that comes with this. It's not a title you get. It's not how you get. It's not something you get promoted into. It's something that your peers need to elect you for, right? That's the role that you are elected for. So again, it's a very remarkable achievement.
Yeah.
So Sheuli, let's start with because I think that your journey alone can fill a few lifetimes, or at least it might appear to be the case for some people. And there's a question I like to ask or bring to people's attention, because I believe that everything we do in life comes with a sacrifice. So my question would be to you first: what are your most significant personal sacrifices and trade-offs that you had to do in order to achieve what you have achieved so far?
Yeah, it's a great reflection, and I think it's whether you call it sacrifices or choices,
Mm-hmm.
it's always there to be made. And I would say earlier in my career, I was like, okay, I can do everything. So I've got lots of energy, lots of time, I can make time by just, working harder, working longer, whatever. I think as you go through your career, then you have to make choices. You realize actually there isn't unlimited everything. So you have to make choices and sacrifices, as you say. I think and a lot of that comes down to time and how you spend your time.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I used to think about it. Now it's more, I think about how am I spending my energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, early on in my career, it was, I guess, driven by well, if you work hard, success will come. And it almost didn't matter what I was working at. Like someone could give me something to do, this thing, that thing, the other thing, and I'd just say, right, fine, I'll do it all. Whereas over time, I've realized that actually, when you make a choice to do something, it might be something that energizes you, great. Equally, it might be something that doesn't energize you. And if you're in a place where you're doing too many things that don't energize you, that will have an impact. And then that sacrifice is not only time, but will also be well-being in a kind of more holistic way of sort of happiness at work and psychological well-being. So I think that that notion of making mindful choices has definitely come through. I think one of the things I'm minded of, there was a point when my kids were quite small, so I guess my younger one was probably about 2, 3, something like that, and I was doing a lot of international travel, like going away for a week at a time, coming back, going away. And there was one morning, and he didn't sleep that well at that point. And there was one morning when I met him on the stairs at about 3, half 3 in the morning, and he was up and ready to go for the day. And I kind of went out ready to say, right, you've got to go back to bed now. And I went, oh, mummy, you're here. Now we can play. And that was a real wake up moment of, okay, for him, he doesn't care it's 3:30 in the morning. He's recognized that I'm actually here, which means he's recognized when I'm not here. And that's a trade-off of, and whether it's people have children or friends or family or pets or whatever, being away from home has an impact. And it's although I've loved being able to do lots of international travel, the best is when I've been able to do it with my family, which we've had extended business trips where I've been able to take my family for a number of months, which has kind of made them doable. But yeah, that moment on the stairs I can picture really vividly of being okay, I have a choice to make, not a choice, right? I mean, I think that I forget whether we sat down and played or whether I put him back to bed. I forget which choice was in the minute, but on a broader choice of actually, do I want to, wake up in 10 years' time and kind of be still doing all this traveling, or do I want to change things? And how do I get to that balance? So I think that the kind of the overall well-being and being able to have the energy to do what you want to do. So for me, it's always been really important to spend time with quality time with my family. And it's not just spending the time, it's actually having the energy to put into the family and be present in the moment. Do I get that right all the time? No, obviously there are moments where you just kind of go, oh gosh, my head was still at work and I didn't really engage in that conversation. But yeah, my children are old enough now where they call me out, which is good.
It sounds like is even in those that aha moment that had that impact on you, it influences the choices or your empowerment to know that you have choices after that. So how did you work your personal non-negotiables into your next transitions or your next decisions for where maybe your career was going? And could you work those in early, or were these kind of realized as you went along?
So I think what's again something that has become more important to me as I've gone through my career is the importance of reflection and thinking about um, what's just happened, what you want to happen. Again, I'd say when I was younger, first early on in my career, I was like, yeah, again, I think I said it earlier, so long as I work hard, that's fine. But
Mm-hmm.
actually, it's more about reflecting, going, well, yeah, I really enjoyed that. How can I build that in? That
Mm-hmm.
drained me, but I know I have to do it. So, something like a tax return really drains me, but I don't have an option. You have to do your tax return. So, but it's kind of where you do have the choices, understanding that. And I think at any time there are different balances. So one thing that I've always really enjoyed is working internationally. And at one point, there was a particular role that I was in where I suddenly realized I wasn't getting enough of the international aspects in my role. So it wasn't then right, I'm resigning tomorrow type situation. I was going, well, wherever life takes me next, I need to make sure there's always some sort of international element to what I'm doing, because actually that energizes me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of reflecting on things has become a lot more important for me.
Mhm. And just having the awareness of what's important to you, and then
Mm.
asking or seeking something or being open to an opportunity that has that, if it does. Do you think women or other, anyone, what prevents them from that, from maybe accepting that that's what they need to be able to stay energized? I mean, there are parts of jobs that are draining. There's parts of personal life that's always going to be draining, but that doesn't have to be the net or the norm. So, what advice do you give to people to regain their control or the empowerment to fill the things in their lives, personal or professional, with the things that will re-energize them?
Yeah, I think it's acknowledging it in the first place. So
Mm-hmm.
saying, and sometimes that might be quite easy, like the one I've talked about, I want to do more international work. That's
Mm-hmm.
quite easy to say. And in a professional context, people go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Da, da, da. But there might be other things where you say, I want to do more of this, which, might be I want to spend more time, I don't know, personal time or something like that, which then maybe for whatever situation the woman's in, they go, oh, can I really say that? Can I say that? So, I mean, a kind of a quite a common scenario would be, I want to spend more time with my family. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can get into oh, is it okay for me to say that? If I say that, is that then cutting off options? How will my boss take it? Da 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 da.
Right.
And
Right.
it's then, so first of all, it's understanding what is it that you want more of or less of, and then I think it's having a support network where you can actually get the support, bouncing ideas off people, mentoring, whatever it is, to actually say, look, this is what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Kind of how might I go forward from here? Whether it's, as I say, with a colleague, a friend you've known for years, or a formal mentor or coach, and just
Mhm.
talking that through. That's the kind of the importance of network is also something that's for me
Mhm.
has grown and continues to grow, is actually having people around you who can be critical and supportive friends, who can reflect back to you stuff that you haven't seen about yourself, and
Mhm.
really and also provide that space where you go, oh, I'm thinking this, what does that mean?
Of course.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's this attunement, surely, that you appear to have to your own, let's say, self-awareness, to the understanding of your own needs, understanding what energizes you, what resources you have available, right? Your energy and time limitations. Like these are the things that you seem to have a great grasp of, but we know from experience that not everyone does, right? It's when we work with individuals, we actually spend a lot of time raising that awareness or allowing people to see that, right? There are no good and bad choices. It's the choice is yours. You just need to make it consciously. And we know that there are a lot of people stuck in certain loops or positions or life that they never actually thought about in the first place. They ended up in a certain position. It was never a conscious choice. So that's refreshing to hear, but it's also interesting to see that those traits again allow you to achieve things or the life that you want. So bridging from this, that path or that road to leadership, it's not always rosy, right? It's not necessarily always easy. And we talked about your sacrifice, but I was wondering, is there a moment that you could share when your leadership, so we're talking about professional life right now, was seriously tested, and how did you manage to navigate this?
So I think early on, I mean, I guess even before I go into that example of sort of testing my leadership, the notion of me being a leader was something that I didn't have as part of me. I mean, when I joined pharmaceutical industry, I wanted to become a clinical researcher who was going to discover the cure for cancer, something, a kind of an ideal like that. And it was actually one of my bosses at the time said, actually, Sheuli, you're quite good with people. Have you thought about going down that route and leading teams and people? So I sort of went, okay, I hadn't recognized that in myself at all, but let's go with it. And then my first challenge came, it was probably about 6 months or maybe not even that long into my first head of department role. And I just had this feeling of like, everything I look at or do is just terrible. It's awful. And then I was like, then I reflected and I think I can't remember who I was talking to, whether it was a coach or friend or whatever at the time. And then the penny dropped that actually the role of the leader is that people bring their problems to you. So yes, you are spending a lot of time immersed in things going wrong and problems because actually that's why people are coming to you. Yeah. And actually turning that round, that sort of that everything's going wrong into no, I'm in a situation where lots of things are wrong because people are bringing things to me was key for that, because that was a moment where I was going, oh my goodness, what is this leadership thing? I just want to see so yeah, and then I've had so that was sort of the first kind of pivotal moment, if you like, and then along the way it's been I guess two types of challenges. One is challenges with people, and I don't mean performance management or things like that. I think challenges where the impact of a decision that you need to make will affect people, and that kind of how do you so for example, if an organization says we need to restructure, we need to reduce, we need to whatever, those kind of decisions you have to have, and for business reasons, but it's the people who will be impacted by it. And I find those difficult, and in a way I hope I will always find them difficult, in that means I'm kind of keeping the empathy and the sort of doing a proper thinking about it. But I think I think those are challenging when you sort of have to the impact is going to be either people lose their jobs or they have to do something that they didn't want, change roles or something like that. Right. And then the other type of decisions and leaderships that situations I've been in is when I feel very strongly we should be doing this as a business or whatever organization, but actually the kind of the general decision is no, we'll do this instead. And over time learning when to, when do you stick to your guns and when do you say actually no, that's not mine. And I think when I was a younger leader, it would have been a lot of things would be, well, obviously we must do this and not do this, but then over time I've hopefully refined that into well, actually that's just another way of doing things, that's okay, it will get us broadly to the same outcome, versus actually no, that is something that I would find unethical, therefore I cannot go that way. And I think that's sort of using my ethical compass, if you like, in a smarter way to help me with those situations. But as someone, I don't particularly enjoy conflict, so those sort of areas I know will continue to be challenging for me as a leader. But it's recognizing how can you make them less challenging, but also how can you balance what you do outside of work so you've got the right energy when you're having to deal with those situations in work, to think about them diligently.
Yes, and I think we all here have an experience with organizational reshuffles, and leadership. If you lead an organization, there's always a conflict, I guess, built in between the organizational needs and the needs of the people that the organizations employ. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's never pleasant, and it's not always easy or even possible, I believe, to find that balance. Is that one of the reasons, or this kind of a living more aligned to your personal values is what is moving you or pushing you towards independent consultancy?
No, I think the move towards independent consultancy is it's actually driven by the type of work. What I really like is breadth of things. So I like doing being involved in lots of things. I really enjoy learning new ideas, new concepts, new areas. And I think what I'm finding with working as an independent is actually you get involved in so many different types of projects, and each one you can learn something and also give something in that way that in a corporate setting, if you like, you're not going to change roles every few weeks or few months, and you're going to be in a particular role for a while, rather than sort of the consultancy side where you just get pulled into lots of different things. So
yeah, it's just coming back to leadership, and as you were, well, someone recognized in you the potential for leadership, or maybe not potential, but your natural, it sounds like it was very natural to the people around you. So what are the tenets of leadership, and are they learned? Are they acquired? How many of these are because people find themselves in roles, and how many of those can actually be intentionally developed, if they are?
yeah, I think for me the two key things about being a leader, actually. One is always having humility, because that allows you to hear new things, whether that's feedback from people around you to say, actually, you need to be more like this or do more of that or whatever. Or it's humility around the content of what you're doing. So going back to decision making, should we do A or B? Actually, if you can approach it with the humility that someone with your team comes up with answer C, and you go, oh, actually that's the one we should be doing. So that humility is, I think, a key thing. And then the other bit is just being kind and respectful. So although there are difficult decisions to make, as we've just discussed, organizational restructures, those kind of issues. You can't take those away from the context of being in a business or an organization, but it's how you do that as a leader. And then for me, all other things would fall out from those two things. I know there's plenty written on leadership by people who are, far more academically into it than I am. But from a very practical point of view, I'd say if you're willing to be open and willing to be kind, then that will set you up in a good way.
Yes, I think I think we're lucky in a way, because that's what you get from clinical practice, right? This level of humility and this understanding that what was in a book does not necessarily work in practice, and vice versa, right? I think this collision with reality and what is academic and what is practical is something that I think we learn as in clinical practice relatively fast. It's interesting how you have it almost seems like you have took those learnings and applied them into a very different setting. I have again a follow-up question, because I do believe that we always stand on shoulders of others. I don't entirely believe in the myth of a self-made success. What was the most valuable advice that you have ever received from someone else, or ideally, and a piece of advice that you would like to pass on to others, or to people who are earlier on their career journey?
So probably the most significant piece of advice I received was that the one I've talked about earlier, which was, you're good with people, you should consider going down the leadership route. Which meant I had to give up my dreams of being this, amazing scientist who was going to just do all this deep discovery. But actually, I think that was for the betterment of everybody, because actually one of the things I realized I don't like, if I have to choose, I'm very unlikely to choose doing detailed work over new ideas and connecting with people. So I think if I had pursued that route down into research, it wouldn't have necessarily been the best. I think, I've been lucky in that I've had people who sort of, I think from almost, so not necessarily people that I'm that close with, but people that I've known who've been able to reflect to me and suggest things to me that I wouldn't have otherwise done. So various promotions or different roles I've gone for, where people have said, well, Sheuli, have you thought about this? I'm going, oh, do you think I could do that? And they've gone, well, yeah, go for it. And so I guess the piece of advice I would give others and my younger self is actually consciously build that in. Where can you get those reflections and people who will give you things that I just wouldn't have seen myself in certain roles, and then they said, no, well, why don't you go for it? So that's been key along the way.
And when you've gone for it, have you ever wished you didn't?
I haven't gone for something I wish I didn't. No, I think all the roles I've done, two things have been consistent. One, I've learned something new, which again, I love learning. So that's ticked that box. Yep. And I get to meet some really interesting people from, various walks of life and around the world. So even if the outcome of the role has been, I wouldn't want to do this for any longer than this particular role, it's actually exposed me and given me lots of energy, because I've got that learning and meeting people. Yeah.
Is there anything that you left on the table, or that you now reflect that, oh, I had a decision, I didn't take it, or maybe something that's coming up that you're still stewing over?
The, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot more recently is where I started at the beginning, where I was thinking, actually, if I think back to 18-year-old Sheuli, what she really enjoyed was the environment and ecology. And actually, I went on a series of holidays in inverted commas where you used to pay, I don't know, it was like not very much. And as a bunch of volunteers, you would go and do conservation volunteering. So we cleared an orchard one time, I rebuilt a dry stone wall one time, I built a pathway through a forest another time. And you were sleeping on church halls or, floors and things. And it was a great volunteering holiday. And thinking back now, I'm thinking, actually, yeah, that obviously really, really energized me. So now I'm, quite a number of years later, absolutely delighted that I can now build sustainability into my practice within pharmaceutical medicine. So I now get to contribute to roundtables and get to lecture to medical schools on sustainability in pharmaceutical medicine, and that feels a really sweet spot. So I guess if we'd been talking maybe 5 years ago, that might have been the thing that was left on the table, where I go, oh yeah, actually that's kind of a passion that I hadn't been able to bring in, but now it's sort of because of where we are, I guess, in the world, that is now part of what I do. So
wow. So you sort of had this, like, you knew that this was part of your purpose, and maybe it's just a matter of time until you could connect the thing. Like, you sort of had to build it in a certain way to be able to do it. And what do you tell people who have just, maybe they're a bit lost about what their purpose is, or what passion they have, and how to actually do it in their everyday life, or even as part of their professional career? How do you help someone discover themselves, or allow them to go back and say, you know what, this was important to me and it still is, and this is now becoming my future? How do you help someone, or what advice do you give someone to around purpose and passion?
I think it's about reflecting back. So at that point where you're going, okay, what am I even doing here? Is that okay? So think back. What are the things that have energized you over time? What have you been really passionate about? And how can you, how can you build that in? Is that so for me, sort of the environment side of it, at home I was doing what I could in my personal life with the environment. I've always really enjoyed gardening and kind of being out in nature. So I'd sort of kept that going, as it were, but it's now feels much better that it's, it's in my professional life as well as my personal life. But others, it might be, they say, actually, I've got a passion for, I don't know, singing or drama or something that doesn't quite fit in their professional life, but it's then, so how could you build that into your personal life in a way that it gives you energy, so that then you can do what you need to do professionally. But it is, I think, I found it a very powerful thing to go back and sort of go, oh gosh, that is what I was really interested in when I was sort of 18. And I went on these holidays, and I'd sort of almost forgotten that I'd done all that until I sort of reflected on it. I was like, yeah, no, I went on 4 or 5 of those holidays. So it wasn't just a one-off. So 4 or 5 years I was consistently volunteering, doing stuff for conservation. So
it's like you can sacrifice things, but maybe life or the universe doesn't really allow you to sacrifice what your true purpose
Your
is.
purpose.
You just need to be aware of it and pay attention, even if it's theater.
I agree. That's kind of you've put it really nicely.
And I think there's a powerful theme as well that we see with multiple speakers now and guests that we have, is I'm not sure we've met anyone who regretted something that they have done. If there are any regrets, it's always for the things that people didn't do, which I find quite interesting. So building on this, if you were to give advice to so imagine there are other women listening to our conversation right now, and if is there an action that you would recommend them to take right now, or like the moment they finish, or maybe even press pause and do something right now, what would it be?
I think I'd go back to my reflections about having a network and really kind of, so the action could be, who is my network? Where am I? Or it could be, if you go, yeah, I've got my network. Okay, connect with someone, have a coffee with them, virtual or otherwise, and just chat and say, be open. And if you're kind of saying, I want to know who I am, ask whoever it is, say, what do you think about what am I good at? What am I, what do you see in me? All those sorts of questions. And yeah, it's that power of the power of the network is amazing. So that would be my kind of, if you've not consciously done something about your network, then consciously do it. If you have a network, then start to use it. And if you use your network, if you have one and you use it, then use it even more and get deeper with some of the people in your network to help you find, and really sort of, help you reflect on where you are and what your purpose is.
Yeah, it's very interesting that the prompt is to ask people to give you their perspective on yourself, right? An outside perspective on yourself. I think that's quite a powerful thing to do.
The outside perspective. So one of the things, you'll know that we have to do to have our license as doctors, every so often we have to ask for a 360 feedback. So going out to colleagues to, say, are you practicing in a safe, responsible way as a doctor? Most of it's numerical and, that's fine. But what's always really interesting is the free text bit where you see someone will write just a few words, but you go, oh, that's great. That's either something I knew about myself or I thought I knew about myself, but it reinforces the impact of that. So, Sheuli is good at this or whatever, or it's something I didn't know about myself, in which case you go, great, I need to, I want to dive in and find out more about it. So,
yeah. And how do you dive in? How do you encourage someone to actually dive in either way? Because sometimes that feedback can be very impactful or elicit emotions. So how do you help someone then step through managing that or any kind of feed forward for that matter? How do you what do you do with it?
Yeah, and I think this is, when you're, again, it's being mindful of where you are at the time when you ask for that feedback. So on some days, it may be just go, just tell me something I'm good at, because it feels like the world's falling down right now. And I just need someone to say, it's okay, you've got this, or I'm here for you, or whatever. And other days it might be, actually, I'm up for hearing some, some areas where I could improve. Or it might be a broader question, like, you've known me for a while. Where do you think I could, what sort of things do you think I could do in the future? And be a question more like that then you can sort of go, okay, I can, mull over that. Again, having people around you can talk to, whether that's professionals, your mentors, coach, therapist, whatever, or family, friends, network, I think it's really important. And I think, I'm not saying everyone should dive in and get some really harsh feedback immediate, because you need to be in the right place and have the right support network, right support system around you, to be able to process it in a helpful way, I think.
I would love to ask you about Dunning-Kruger. Are you familiar with I'm sure you are familiar with the phenomenon.
So Dunning-Kruger effect, that's the cognitive phenomenon that the moment you get more, if you know just a little bit about something, you feel like you know everything. But the more you become, the more expertise you gather in something, the more your self-doubt increases.
Oh, unconscious and conscious
Um,
awareness.
it's part of this. Yes, it's called
Yeah.
the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it's a cognitive phenomenon that increases your discomfort and belief of your own skills, the more competent you get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Yes. No. So I have heard of that. I didn't. Yeah. Know the name. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if I can ask, have can you think of times that you've experienced this and really realized or had this moment of, oh, like, there's so much I don't know, or I think I'm somewhere else. How have you managed that? If
Yeah.
you, if you've experienced this and what do you tell people once they have those moments of, wow,
Of doubts, essentially, right? In
I'm
their own
not
Yeah.
sure what to
ability. Yeah.
do. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure what to do. Um. So think I think most, if not all, jobs at some point have had that where you
Mm-hmm.
were very sure of what you were doing and then became not sure and had to be more thoughtful. So one of the so in the UK, I reviewed and signed off pharmaceutical promotional material for many years. So that's you need to make sure that what you're reviewing adheres to the legislation and the code of practice. And at the beginning, it feels very black and white. So yeah, this is right, that's wrong. I can sign it. I can't sign that one. So please go back and reword it or whatever. And then the more I did, and the more I learned, and the more cases that I read, and critically, the more I spoke to peers who were also going on that learning curve or ahead of me, you then get to a point where you're just going, I can't sign anything off. Anything could be
Misconstrued or misperceived or
exactly misperceived.
misinterpreted. Yeah.
And I just have doubt about everything. And then the next stage in that particular example was then actually it's about learning to live with risk. And that's the kind of, how do you understand, how do you hold that risk? How do you hold that comfort with being in a place where you go, okay, I'm whatever, 80% sure, but I know there's a 20%. And because of the situation I'm in, that 20% is okay. But actually, in another time, you might go, no, no, no. If I'm only 80% sure and there's a 20% I'm not sure, I need to get someone else in who can help, fill those gaps, or I need to look something up or whatever it might be. So it's that depends on the context and how important it is to be 100%, I think.
Yeah. And paradoxically, this illusion of certainty that you have early on is actually, you think at the beginning things are easy. Oh, I'm this great. I'm going to sign this off. I have no doubts, right? But that's actually a sign of not necessarily being there just yet.
Yeah.
Because you simply might not be able to see the problematic 20% or the risks that you later will learn exist. And paradoxically, the more you learn, the more experience you become, the safer signature you are.
Yeah.
The more doubt you might have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing, I mean, you said about what advice do you give? So one piece of advice in that situation of signing off materials, one piece of advice I used to give to colleagues who were just starting on that process was also listen to your gut. So there would be some times where you look at something, you go, oh, well, I think it's okay because I can tick this, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this, but there'd just be something where you go, I'm really not, there's something that doesn't let me say, yes, this is okay. And for me, I found that was really powerful because it was when I was on that curve, not being able to articulate why I didn't why I wasn't comfortable with it, but somehow feeling that I wasn't comfortable with it. And for me, what I found always found helpful actually with decisions now, even though they're not related to that situation, is, somehow having some time to let it mull over, and then within the next minutes, hours, overnight, you suddenly go,
pause.
I know what it is. I know it's because there was a similar situation. Let me look up that similar situation. Oh, actually, no, it's different enough that this is okay, or no, that is transferable. So that that sort of gut feel of something's it just doesn't feel quite right, which I think is hard, especially in our type of industry, where it's it's life sciences, it's highly regulated, and very factual. To then say it doesn't feel quite right, I think is difficult to say. So as I say, I used to say to colleagues, if something doesn't feel right, that's okay to say it doesn't feel right, and just ask for a bit of time to then be able to turn that into some words.
Yeah, it's very interesting, Sheuli, what you're saying, because we recognize this process from the way the human brain works, at least well-trained brain works. Because emotions, like, you wouldn't make the decision just based on what you feel. You would need to put this cognitive elements and dig deeper into this. But the ability to recognize the emotions as an low resolution warning thing, okay, might not necessarily be anything wrong with this, but I need to think this through and give my brain this conscious brain, the cortex, sometimes to process it and see things for what they are. It's great, right? Don't ignore those things that arise. It might be a dud, it might be just a misfire, but dig into this, just get some clarity, right? Put some structure around this. Again, that comes with experience. And I think the other thing that you have mentioned here that we recognize as well is this pause that you need to build in between having an emotional feel, noticing an emotion and reacting to it. Give yourself time and pause for the working brain to process what is it that's really going on. And I think that a lot of people living in the world today, they either not aware that they need to do this or not used to taking a break or a pause to process and understand better, and before they decide. And essentially our life is a series of decisions we've made, so the ability to do this well will impact your overall quality of life in a way.
And your ability to do it also relies on how well you're taking care of your brain too, in a way. So Sheuli, how do you take care of your brain? What are the habits you have that
and the body as well, right?
Where you were.
We don't separate these two.
No, I think so as I said, when I was younger, I worked really hard in terms of lots and lots of hours at work, and lots of output. I was going to use the word productive, but I'm saying lots of output. And actually, that didn't serve me well in a couple of instances, and I kind of got to the stage of burnout, and that was like, actually, you've got to, I was saying to myself, this isn't great, because just producing output without actually fueling it, re-energizing, came to really made me sort of think about how do you get that balance right. So for me, what's really important, so I really enjoy exercise. I used to play field hockey when I was younger, but then when the kids have come along, I've switched to running. So I do a lot of middle distance running, what's the word I'm looking for? So running on the road or cross country and things. So that
actually, what is middle distance? Sorry, because I know that people who 200 yards, they need an Uber. What is middle distance?
I sort of it's 5-10K. So I don't do the really long, like half marathon. Certainly not a marathon. Maybe one day, but not.
Okay. So 30-60 minutes, right? Roughly. It takes. Okay.
So that, and I kind of exercise probably about 5 times a week. So I do running, I do weights, because you get older, you need to keep your strength up. The evidence about muscle mass and things like that. So do weights, do Zumba, which is something that I'm not very good at, but I really enjoy. And I enjoy just being able to turn up and not be good at it and just like enjoy the music and so that combination is really important for me. And as I mentioned, I enjoy gardening, so I have a bit of a garden, and my sanctuary, if you like, is my greenhouse, where there's if the children come in there, they have to be quiet, and it's just where I'm nurturing seedlings and taking care of that, and then being out in nature, so going for walks, being by the sea when we can, that sort of thing, are all really restorative. Sleep, trying to get as much sleep as possible. Again, I know that if I'm sleep deprived, life seems a lot harder. So it's, making sure you have sleep, and then, taking care of nutrition. So that's all important. The other thing that I find really restorative is just curling up on a chair with a book and losing myself in a novel. I'm lucky because I can read quite quickly, so I can get through lots of different books, but a novel of some sort that isn't scary, just something I can lose.
What are you reading right now?
Right now I'm actually reading the biography of someone who it's called, what's it called? The Outrun. So someone who was an alcoholic, then went back to her island of Orkney, and she's exploring nature and reconnecting with nature. So the writing, the descriptions of nature in it are amazing. And yes, I read science fiction, I read cozy crime, lots of different things.
Yeah. Wow. Everything that you're talking about, I'm sure we can all recall someone who's said, well, I don't have time for sleep. I don't have time to read. I don't have time to do all of these things. And yeah, I just want to, at the beginning of this, we talked about, well, it's not as much about time as getting energy. And if you're kind of, maybe there's a different way to look at this, because putting all of these things for your mind and body and soul are the only way really that you can show up for your family and your career. So it's sort of you can't have one without the other. And
Absolutely.
use the word restorative. And, I think when people respond automatically with, well, I don't have time. I don't have time for gardening or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Maybe
reading.
that's the signal not to ignore at that point.
And I think a fabulous colleague once said to me, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely.
And I hadn't heard that phrase. I'd heard the sentiment of it, but I hadn't heard that as a phrase. I was like, yeah, that's true. You can't pour from an empty cup. And I want to pour in lots of different directions. So I've got to, it's I make it sound like I do everything perfectly. And clearly that's not how it is, with sort of busy work, teenagers and a puppy at home. There's no way that's all been consistent. But it's it's about doing a bit each day.
Absolutely. Consistency, right?
Just consistency.
Beats perfection every time. Yeah. It's also very interesting because this is something that we do that a lot with people as well. We try to teach people that the success is a byproduct of their habits, right? And yes, and people are often confused to think that they need to do more of something rather than to build habits around themselves, what they actually can control, and it will make the success easier in a way, or possible, right? And I think that your experience with transitioning from doing a lot of things and burning out into doing things for myself and kind of achieving more as a result of this is it's counterintuitive because it doesn't feel like it, right? But getting the right habits in place is actually what enables you to be successful and sustain it, right, over prolonged period of time, because we exist on a time scale, not just today. So the book, is there a book that you would recommend to others, or maybe another a resource or a podcast or any other resource for people who are looking to change their life? Is there a book that have significantly impacted how you live or think?
Oh, good question. I read a while ago, I read 4,000 Weeks, which is the book about, which basically is on the premise of an average human lifespan is 4,000 weeks. I think was the, and that, I think whether you read the book or not, the kind of the sentiment of actually how are you going to spend your time is really important. I'm sure there is a book, but I may need to get back. Yes, there will be. When I come off the call, I'll think, oh, that's the book. That's the book.
Yes, it was written by Oliver, I think, Berkman, and it was called
Yeah.
Time Management for Mortal People or something like this, or
Yeah.
Time Management for Mortals. It's a relatively new one
Yeah.
that gets people to think about their own finality, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for many.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's essential because, I mean, how else are you going to choose, right? We started with choices.
Yeah.
What guides your choice? I mean, the moment you realize that you have to prioritize
Yeah.
what matters to you, I mean, that prompts this entire journey, I think, internal journey that you need to go through in order to actually live the life that you're satisfied with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a powerful book.
Yeah.
I agree, and I would probably encourage everyone to think about this sometimes. Maybe not every day, but have an awareness that there's a timer. Yeah.
So this is a fun part. We have a question for you from our previous guest, and she didn't know that who we would be talking to. So, and this is a very good question. This is really interesting that this is the one for you, Sheuli. So the question is, what would change if you stopped living from a sense of depletion and started living from a sense of restoration?
From a sense of depletion and a sense of restoration. As in, what would change for me personally?
You or I
we
mean,
leave it open. We cannot go
we'll leave
back
it
to the
open.
person who asked that question.
Yeah, okay.
We leave it open.
So I think so the question is, what would change if you change from living with a sense of depletion to a sense of restoration? For me, that question evokes two things. One is personal energy. So if you've run out of personal energy, it's it's not a nice place to be for you or your family or friends. Whereas a sense of restoration, you can bring your full self to it. The other thing that question evokes for me is a sense of purpose. And actually, what's coming back to the what's your personal purpose? What do you what's your mission in life? What's the thing that why are you uniquely you and on this earth, and what are you here to do, sort of thing. So, and I think that understanding your own purpose or something about it, and then being able to achieve your purpose means you need to be restored. So it's kind of two things. You need your energy to do what you're doing anyway, but also if you really want to achieve your purpose in life, then whatever that may be, then yeah, you need to kind of mindfully think about your energy and how you're applying your time to it.
Yeah, and I think what's so beautiful is that's really been the theme of all of your messages today is nothing that you've done or when you've realized these moments of depletion, emotionally, physically, mentally, you sort of put systems and things into place so that you don't stay in that depleted sense or state, and not ignore when it's 3:30 in the morning and it's time to play. So yeah, I think that's really beautiful.
I have a quick one, a yes or no, and this is my personal. If we reach that point with genetic engineering, should we bring the dinosaurs back?
Oh my goodness, that's I think I'd answer with another question with it, for what purpose? So I think, I mean, this has been something that's driven me through my career, is about, I'm very fortunate to work with lots of different technologies. So whether it's medicines, whether it's digital, AI, devices, except loads of amazing science and technology. But my kind of core theme throughout the various roles I've done and things that I do now is, how do you ensure the technology is doing something meaningful for society rather than just for the sake of technology? And the reason why I'm passionate about that is because if you don't mindfully think about what you're doing with technology, there will be unintended consequences. And
Absolutely.
as we've seen, the unintended consequences tend to end up with affecting people who are already underserved in society anyway.
Exactly.
So I'm not quite sure how dinosaurs fits into that, except for the question I would ask is, if we're doing it, why would we do it, and who's thinking through the unintended consequences?
It's exactly what the question is about. It's, it's not about the dinosaur. It's about the, just because we can, should we?
Yeah.
I think that's what the question is, and it's always interesting to listen to answers that people give. And you're right. And now we observe. Now we have, what's the newest tech thing? The artificial intelligence. That's an interesting one to watch as well. We already see the toll it starts taking on people's emotional and mental well-being. So it'll be interesting how this unfolds. We're keeping a close watch. Sheuli, if people want to find you, maybe if there's a young person and starting their professional career and they're looking to learn from you, or to maybe they're looking for a mentor, where can they find you?
And best place is LinkedIn. Sheuli Porkess on LinkedIn. So
wonderful.
Be delighted to
Super.
connect.
Sheuli, any last advice or thoughts to leave with our listeners today?
I would say, the fact that people are listening to the podcast means that people who are going to be interested in this sort of area, and there's lots of resources and help out there, and continue exploring, and they're going to be fabulous. The listeners are going to be fabulous people, and it's a way of how can you unleash your fabulousness, if that's a word. So
and what is next for you? Your next chapter? I know you just started as a president, but we're talking about let's say about the end of that journey.
I think
what's next?
What I'm getting a lot of energy from at the moment is working with startups, with new small companies with brilliant ideas, some absolutely amazing people, and helping them to turn those ideas into something that is meaningful. So how do you make a new technology into something that's going to have a positive impact in society? So what I would like to see my next chapter being is really focusing on that, the new technology, and working with those smaller companies, lots of energy, lots of great ideas, and actually how do we what can I do to help them turn that into something meaningful?
Great. Looking forward to seeing what happens. Sheuli, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been such a pleasure to meet you and speak with you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you, Sheuli.